Hey, what's up everybody? So in this video I'm going to go over some exercises from the Web Developer Bootcamp. These particular exercises are from some slides that Colt made, and they do not have a written out solution or a video solution for them. So we're going to go through them, and I'll show you the solutions and how we're able to get to that point. So the first one here is for even numbers. We want to print out all even numbers between 1 and 50, and then they want two different solutions. One with a while loop, fix my microphone here, and one with a for loop. So let's do the for loop first. Even numbers between 1 and 50. So let's see here. We'll say for, and then we'll say var I is equal to 0, I is less than 50, and then I plus plus. So normally you start a loop at 0, but because we want to do 1, we want to do 1 through 50, we'll start with 1. It really, honestly, because we're doing even numbers, it could be 2. We could skip 1, but we'll go ahead and start from 1 just to use exactly what the specs of the exercise are. So I'll make this a little bit bigger, easier to read. Alright, so right now if we console log this, the value for I, then you can see in the console we get 1 all the way down to 49. What we want to do is we're going to say if I, and the way that we can determine, one way that we can determine whether or not a number is even or odd is to use modulus. So the modulus operator is, or they call it modulo. Essentially what it does is it returns the remainder to you. So if we do I modulus 2, then we should expect to get back 0, meaning there is no remainder, if it is an even number divided by 2. So 1 divided by 2 obviously is not going to give us 0. So we'll say equals 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 0. And so it goes 1 modulus 2, or 1 divided by 2, check the remainder, does it equal 0 or not. If it does equal 0, at that point we'll console log the value for I. So now you can see it just updated over here. I'm going to go ahead and clear it out and run it again. So I'll save it, and it should run automatically. I guess not. So we'll go to settings and change the behavior. Where is it? Cool. So now we can run it manually. And if we scroll up, we get 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way down to 48. We want it to get us to 50. So we'll say I is less than or equal to 50. Save it, and we'll rerun it. And when it updates, it gets us all the way down to 50 here. So this is one possible way to do it. Again, we're just iterating from 1 all the way to 50, and we're checking to see if the value for the iterator I is has a remainder after it's divided by 2. We call that modulus. So that's what this is doing right here. And then if that returns true, then we go into this if statement, or this if block, and we log the value for the iterator. Okay, so that's for the for statement. Let's try it with the while loop. So while, we can say something like var j is equal to 1, and we can say while j modulus, while j is less than or equal to 50, and then we'll do same difference. If j modulus 2 is equal to 0, then we can do console.log j. The difference here is we need to iterate manually. So then we'll just do a j++ here, and we'll see what that gives us. So we'll go ahead and comment the first one out and save this, clear this and run it again and see what it gives us. So we get 2, 4, 6, 8, yada yada, even numbers all the way down to 50. I think I've seen students do it like this, where they just do j is equal to 2, while j is less than 50, j plus equals 2, and then they just console log j. So we're going to get 2 as the first one, and then we're just going to plus equals 2 each time. Let's go ahead and save it, clear it, run it. Yeah, we get the same thing there. So that works. I mean, it's not 1 to 50 like the exercise asks for, but it is one way to do it with a while loop. There's also the while do loop. I'm not going to get into that one, but you could also do that. Okay, so there's those 3 solutions right there. Hope that makes pretty good sense to you all. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out and start from the top for this next exercise. So moving on to the next slide. This one is the ASCII art. Write code to create an ASCII art triangle like the one pictured. Use for loops. Hint, you may want to use nested loops. So I think that threw some people off, the you may want to use nested loops thing, because I think you can do this one without a nested loop. I'm almost certain you can. If any of you have already gone through the slides, you know that at one point I was giving solutions to these down here. So I've got a couple different ways of doing these things. I am going to try and get this one from scratch right now. So basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dollar signs to get this little, it's a right triangle. So we're definitely going to need a loop, right? So we'll say for I is equal to, and we can start at 1 since this is 1 right here. And then we want to go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll loop all the way up to 6. So I is less than, we gotta go ahead and set this to var. By the way, I'm using var because for Colt's course, that's what you all have learned. Or if you've covered the Advanced Developer Bootcamp, you could also use the let keyword. If you're using CodePen, which I am doing for this demo, then you would want to go into the settings and turn on Babel so that it would be able to compile that out to ES5 syntax, which is var essentially. So I'll just use var, keep things simple. So we say var I equals 1, I is less than 6, I plus plus. Okay, so now we have this loop that goes from I equals 1 to 6. We actually want it to go to 6, so we can either say less than 7 or I less than or equal to 6, and that'll get us all the way to 6, including 6, instead of just going to 5. Okay, so we want to console log the dollar sign, but we need to add on to the dollar sign for each loop. So starting at the top, we'll say something like var, we'll just call it the dollar is equal to a string, which is the dollar string. So we'll say console log dollar, and then now I want to put that semicolon on the outside. Now we want to add an additional dollar to dollar. So we'll say dollar is equal to dollar plus equals a dollar sign. Or sorry, dollar is equal to dollar plus a dollar sign. The shorthand way of doing it is dollar plus equals dollar sign. Okay, that should work. I'm pretty sure you can concatenate like that. We'll find out in a second. Okay, so if we save this and we clear this out and we run it, there it is. So it gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not quite as pretty as this one right here. I think if we go into the Chrome console, then you can see it right here. Looks a little bit nicer. So that one's pretty simple. I had a student asking me about the dot repeat method, string dot repeat, And I think that's what I used here. So yeah, here it is. Basically, in this solution, go ahead and comment that out. I say var I equals 0, I is less than or equal to levels. I had it to where you could input the levels. So at this point, I'll just hard code levels is equal to 6. And then we'll start it at 1. And then I did $, which is a string, and I called $.repeat for the value of I. So $.repeat 1, and then the next loop iteration, it would be 2, 3, etc. So if we save this, we clear that, and we run it again, I can almost guarantee, yeah, it does the same thing. So this is a smaller solution than what we have up here by like 3 lines, or 2 lines rather. But it uses a method that you may not have seen before. So I encourage students, in situations like this where you see someone has written a solution somewhere, like I did on the slides right here, then just go ahead and take the time to check out, .repeat. I typically type in MDN because I know that Mozilla Developer Network is going to have the documentation for whatever it is I'm looking for in relation to JavaScript. And so then I go here, and you can see that string prototype has a repeat method, and it tells you all about it. You can read more about it there. So that's how I would figure it out if I didn't know beforehand. Don't be intimidated by this stuff. I know at first you're like, what am I looking at? Why is there an infinity sign there? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But just read through it, look at the examples that they give you, and it will make sense. And there's some stuff in here that you don't have to necessarily worry about. So don't feel like you have to understand everything that's going on here, like the polyfill stuff. Just read the top part and look at the examples, and that should be enough for you to be able to use the repeat method in your code. Okay, so moving on, back up into the slides, I think there's one more, FizzBuzz. So this is super popular. That water is delicious. FizzBuzz is a super popular programming, like an interview exercise that a lot of employers or potential employers will give interviewees, and it can be used in basically any programming language, and it's kind of fun to see the different implementations of it in the various languages. But we'll do it in JavaScript right now. This is definitely something that you must know how to do. It just exhibits your ability to iterate, loop, have flow control in your program, things like that. So the prompt here is write a program that prints the numbers from 1 to 100, but for multiples of 3, print fizz instead of the number, and for multiples of 5, print buzz. And then for numbers which are multiples of both 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. Together, both those words, no space. And here's an example all the way through 15. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we know is we need to loop all the way from 1 to 100. So we'll say for var I is equal to 0. We can start at 1. It's fine. I don't typically start my iterations at 1 just because normally you're iterating over an array, and arrays are 0 index based. But in this case, we're just doing from 1 to 100, so it's not a big deal. In any event, less than 101 or less than equals 100 and I++. Okay, so there's our loop, and right now if we console log, if I can spell, I, and we save this and clear it and run it, then we'll get 1 to 100. You'll see 100 at the bottom here. Okay, so now what we want to do is go back and use control flow or if statements to determine, is this divisible by 3 or by 5 or by 3 and 5, and if so, how do we handle that? So we will do something like if I, and just like earlier when we did modulus to determine if a value divided by 2, an even number, the lowest even number, gave us back 0, no remainder, therefore making it an even number, because an even number divided by another even number is not going to have a remainder. We can do the same thing here. So if a number is divisible by 3, then it's going to return a whole number, meaning there is no remainder. So if I modulus 3 is equal to 0, then we can console log fizz. Just to make sure, yep, fizz. Okay, and then same thing. Well, let's go ahead and run it and just see how it works. So in this case, otherwise or else is the otherwise, we are going to console log, fix my formatting here, I. So I'll save it, clear it, run it, and all the way to 100 you can see multiples of 3 like 99 give us fizz, and then everything else gives you the number. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add in a else if, right? So else if I modulus 5 equal 0, then console log buzz, right? So we want to check divisible by 3 first because it's smaller than 5, and then divisible by 5. I don't know if the order would matter, but let's try it like this and see what happens. So we'll save it and we'll rerun it, and you can see here 99 is fizz, 99 divisible by 3, and then 100 divisible by 5 gives us buzz, and then 95 buzz divisible by 5, 96 divisible by 3 gives us fizz. Okay, so now we want to do whether or not it's divisible by both 3 and 5. So I want to check that first, make sure it's not divisible by both of them, and then if it's not divisible by both of them together, then we'll check them individually. So I'm actually going to move this into an else if, as it's not really normal to be writing it backwards like this, but now I have my if statement. All my spacing is messed up, and I like to put spaces after the if statement. So now if I modulus 3 is equal to 0, and I modulus 5 is equal to 0, then we go ahead and log out fizz buzz together. And so in this if statement, we're using modulus twice, using the triple equals comparator to see if the value returned from that is 0 or not, and then we're using the double ampersand operator to make sure that we're checking both sides. So if both sides are true, then it's going to go inside of here, and it's going to give us fizz buzz. If either side is false, it's going to go to the next one. If both sides are false, it's going to go to the next one. So we'll save it, clear this, and run it. Okay, and so if I start from the top, 1, 2, 3 is fizz, 4, 5 is buzz, 6 is fizz again, 7, 8, fizz, buzz, yada yada, all the way down to 15, which is our first value that's divisible by both 3 and 5 together, and that gives us fizz buzz. And if you see here, here's this example, fizz buzz at 15, so this matches. We know it's correct. How can we make this a little more optimal, smaller? We know that any number that's divisible, well, first of all, we know that the first number that's divisible by both 3 and 5 is 15. Well, just like determining whether or not a number is even by dividing it by the first even number, which is 2, and determining if there is a remainder or not, we can do the same thing with the first, not even number in this case, but first number that's divisible by both 3 and 5, which is 3 times 5, which is 15. So hopefully that's not too confusing. So all we're doing is going back here and saying I modulus 15 is equal to 0. And so 15 will be the first one. 15 modulus 15 is 0, of course. And then the next one is 30. 30 modulus 15 is 0. 30 is divisible by both 3 and 5. And then it goes on 45 and so on and so forth. So that cuts it down. We don't have to use that double ampersand operator. So we can save. We can clear this out and we can run it again. And if we go back to the top and we go down, there's 15 FizzBuzz, 30 FizzBuzz, 45 FizzBuzz, etc. So that's it. You can definitely make this look nicer. You can use a switch statement, which I'm not going to go into here, but if you want to do it with a switch statement, check it out on a Mozilla Developer Network, MDN. You could use ternary operators. Check that out as well on MDN. A bunch of different ways. If you go to like codewars.com and you look up FizzBuzz, you can see it in a bunch of different languages and a bunch of different implementations. And in JavaScript, for instance, there'll be some like one-line solutions that are really nifty. A lot of really cool stuff there. But that's the basics of it. This is perfectly acceptable by any employer if you can write it like this. So that's it for FizzBuzz. And I think that is the last question on this slide. So that's it. I hope these explanations were helpful, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.